Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, Los Angeles edition, with Bernard Tourillon, HPQ Silicon. For those new to the story, HPQ Silicon, with the support of world-class technology partners PyroGenesis Canada and NOVACIUM SAS, are developing new green processes crucial to making the critical materials needed to reach net zero emissions. To do that, they're centered around the four following pillars: becoming a green low-cost manufacturer of fumed silica using their fumed silica reactor, becoming a zero CO2 low-cost producer of high purity silicon through their proven PUREVAP Quartz Reduction Reactor, becoming a producer of silicon-based anode materials for battery applications, and finally, developing a low-carbon on-demand hydrogen production system. And more than just lip service, HPQ has got countless NDAs with some of the biggest players in the world and/or published technical milestones and results that shatter the status quo across each of these verticals. Today, we're here to talk about number one on that list, fumed silica, and number three, the silicon-based anode materials for batteries, because there weren't one, but two press releases this week, and he did it probably because I'm on vacation in Los Angeles, because he always does. Bernard, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get to the questions, I don't think we've seen this before, but like I said, not one, but two significant press releases for two different verticals in the same week. So is that an indication of just how busy things are getting over there, the convergence that's taking place now on multiple fronts, and that we're starting to really get into an accelerated phase, or is this just, a coincidence?
No, we're entering an accelerated phase. There's no other way to say it. That's both the fumed silica, the battery materials, the stars can align better for what we're doing, and it's starting to come really to fruition. So it's things are starting to move much faster.
Now, I know it's hard to love one baby or another, but both these were significant. The fumed silica one, for people watching from the outside, may not quite understand its significance, but both are pretty significant. Which one are you more excited about of these two? And they both have great reasons to be exciting.
You can't love a child more. So basically, you have to love them the same way. And it's the same thing for these projects. And I would also put the hydrogen project into it. But right now, we're talking much more about a fumed silica for a very specific reason that we announced this week in the press release. And on the battery side, just because it's also a very, very exciting moment with regard to what we've done so far.
All right, so let's dive into some questions. I'm gonna tackle them in reverse chronological order. So we'll start with the press release. 18650 type batteries made with advanced silicon-based material continue to deliver strong performance at 50 cycles. In a lot of ways, it's a repeat press release to the outside observer because a lot of the numbers look the same. But tell us, what's the significance now of 50 cycles as a milestone?
It's a big significance, especially if people understand the problem with silicone. Silicone material have been known, to create what's known as the loss of battery degradation, and it's heavily focused on the first cycles. So the first 5 was important, was interesting. Then going to 25 was also interesting, being this looks good. Going to 50, and you can start to assume where the material is going. It's going in the right direction. At one point, there are applications that require 100 cycle battery material. There's other ones that require 500 cycles and those issues. So it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark that we're going to be going for with this testing of our first generation to the 500 cycle. And the important also is, we didn't just talk about our first great results and then basically went quiet because they weren't good. So they continue to be good, and I think it's very important that we go out and say that. So it's not a repeat of the thing. It's just a confirmation of what we said we started to demonstrate is still occurring, and that's really important.
And even Dr. Crame said, I'm quoting here, the fact that the battery consistently exceeds our internal theoretical estimate of a 10% improvement on battery performance, even after 50 cycles, is a powerful validation of our approach. Why is that so important? And I guess tie that in with the lack of degradation, right? I think even you guys have been surprised by the lack of degradation. It's beating other traditional methods at this point. Elaborate maybe on that for new people who are watching, why that's so critical.
For us, it's very critical because it sort of fits our business model. Basically, we want to make advanced silicon material for batteries. And one of the things we want to do is we want to make it easier for battery manufacturers to use our material. So we want to be able to say, okay, this material works very, very well in the size batteries that are used, massively, that are used very much right now. And there's a lot of comparables to what we're doing. So we know we're in the top bracket of where the battery is and the top efficiency of where it is, but we're just starting. It's just our starting truck. Many companies have probably done 1,000 iterations to get where we are. So the fact that our first iteration we're doing this demonstrated we command within the HPQ/NOVACIUM a great understanding of what is required to make this type of material for batteries, and this is starting to be recognized.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean it's starting to be? I'm not going to let you get away with that. What do you mean it's starting to be recognized?
No. I just want to make sure we're not going to interrupt me. So I gave you a break to be able to do it. Elaborate on that. What does that mean? We are getting calls. We are getting interesting demonstration. We are getting, demand for material. And what's interesting is that our business premises, which is that the traditional lithium-ion batteries made out of mostly of graphite will remain to be the dominant technology in battery space for the next amount of years, or it's going to be for a long time. While we understand that some battery manufacturers are playing around with, ideas of more silicon carbon type of material, we feel very confident that we have the right approach, and we will be able to, with our incremental ability to keep increasing the performance of our batteries, we'll be able to keep offering a material that battery manufacturers will want. And it's a battery material that's very, 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 very unique. It's like you can't really compare what we've done with regard to what's out there at this specific moment. I'll just give an example.
Yep. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead with your question.
Is that 10%? Is that 10% the headline catcher? Is that the one that's, because you say in your press release, we continue to see new third-party interest in our material and capability to meet and exceed the rigorous demands being created across various industries. So it seems like you're kind of telegraphing to us a little bit that the phone's ringing, and I'm just curious, is it 10%? Is it the lack of degradation, which is great? And does that 10% make that big of a difference in the economics of battery makers?
Yes, it does. But it's not the 10%, or 14%, first of all, George. 10% was our target, 14% was
sorry, yes, the 14.
Yeah, so that yes, that 14% plays into, because that 14% means because it's all at the end, okay? The entire goal is two things: reducing the cost of the energies in the batteries. So if you increase the performance, you therefore reduce the cost of the electricity in the batteries. And second of all, you need silicon for fast charging, which is what everybody wants. Okay, so it is really playing into it. And it's also our demonstration of our understanding of the materials that we are doing is also attracting conversation, okay? Contrary to popular belief from wannabe experts that think they're really serious on places, there is not that many manufacturers of our type of material. There are a few. They're mostly located in China, okay? Mostly located in Asia. So in North America, okay, and in Europe, there is not too many. I would dare to say there might maybe 2 or 3, okay? If you add to the fact of our geographical location, which is in Eastern North America, where there's a lot of access to green energy, okay? And since the The real ingredient to make our materials is energy. Okay, that plays into it. I'm not sure if people are fully aware, but there's something that's been called the carbon bomb that's about to explode in Europe. What that is instead of installing tariff on product manufacturers all over the world, what they're now doing is they're charging a carbon tax, okay, based on the CO2 emission associated with the manufacturing of your material. So the manufacturing of your material, and that's going to completely change the dynamics of all the issues. So all the technologies that HPQ is working on developing have that green aspect, either because we'll be using hydroelectricity to do our material, or because we can do carbon capture with our QRR. So that gives us a unique position advantage. It's starting to be recognized by more and more people talking about it, because that is really an important factor.
So if I got you straight, it's no longer just the output of George Com's battery and emissions from that. The authorities are going back to how the materials in my battery are manufactured to make sure I'm not using dirty or expensive or just straight up electricity somewhere, and completely offsetting any benefits at the end product by racking up deficits behind me.
There is some argument that if you buy an EV car, okay, which is basically where the materials to make the batteries is made into areas where the carbon production the carbon emission associated with making the materials very high, you might need something like 100 years of running your car to be able to offset the carbon footprint of your material for a car that's worth 25 years. You have to remember that silicon is the largest emitter of CO2 per kilograms of material manufactured. So you need to add silicone to make the batteries better, but if you add silicone that comes from anywhere else, you make your carbon footprint worse. Comes in behind a little company called HPQ Silicon that is attacking making the silicone greener, okay? And because the key ingredient to make a lot of the advanced silicone material is energy, has access to green energy. So we have so many competitive advantages, okay, that they might not be obvious right now to many investors, but it is obvious to many industry players. And that's
I'm assuming that's coming from the conversations you're having, because the phone's ringing.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of is that the focus of a lot of these conversations?
Yeah. Listen, if people say that they're, some people that like to hear themselves talk on social media claim that there's a lot of this material. Well, if that was the case, why would it be approached by somebody who says, I'm going to need something like 1,000 tons of this material per year for my gigafactory? Okay, can you start looking at this and how much we use, how much can you price it, how much can we offtake? These are the type of discussion we're starting to have.
Wow. Okay, that's more than what we've heard before.
Well, it's all part. When you sign an NDA, when you sign MOUs with people, those are the type of discussion that go along to the step forward. It's just as you start to show results, as you start to understand, as you start to know how to make the material moving forward, that looks pretty promising.
Is the focus on the 18650 battery? I know that sounds like such a mechanical name, but is the focus, why the focus on the 18650?
Because it's a battery that has been widely used for many years. Like it's even been used in many EV vehicles. So it is a battery that's very well known. The best performance of this batteries is known. It's 4,000, I think, some 4,000 megahertz or whatever, like megaampere, whatever the number is. But it's known. It's a known entity. So it's easy for us to compare. Okay. So we didn't cherry pick our comparison. We took a very good one that's been there for a long time, and we basically said, look, and we can only compare ourselves with regard to the degradation to another battery. Because, if you if we had the material to reproduce the battery we used to compare ourselves, the Samsung one, in our material, well, then, you know, the 14% improvement should have been there also, because that's sort of the base battery. So that wasn't the reason. We just wanted people to understand that the 1% degradation, the fact that we follow graphite's degradation at this stage, okay, is very, very interesting and very, very promising. And it's a very strong demonstration that we understand the concept is. And then we put as a reference, this is a mature, very performant battery, very highly performance batteries, and yet they lose 5% after 50 cycles. Okay. Now, if I really wanted to, you know, to toot our horn, I could have taken the SIOX material that, you know, some supposedly serious investors, okay, as send me the quotes as it sells for nothing, and then you take a look at it, and it's basically, it loses in its first 5 cycles 25% of its efficiency.
Yeah, I think everyone's got to understand that not all silicon is made the same. It may look like the same thing, but it's just not. It's just like trying to say, hey, these watches are all the same, and that's just not the case. Is that a big selling feature, by the way, when you have these phone calls, when you have these conversations, Bernard? Is the 18650 a really big selling feature? Because as you've discussed in the past, it means that manufacturers don't have to retool. They don't have to change and making big changes. They're just adding some silicon. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but they're essentially just adding some silicon to their to their graphite anodes at the end of the day. Is that a big selling feature in these conversations when you tell them, hey, you don't have to make big changes in order to accommodate this?
What happens is people that are interested in silicone are finding that our results are very interesting, and they want to understand better what we're doing and what we could eventually do together. But, you know, those are long-term process into coming into it. So the advantage of what HPQ has done is, since we've been having those type of discussion for a long time, we have some that are the preliminary discussion, we have some that are more advanced, and we have one that says, okay, for my gigafactories, I'm going to need this. Can you think about doing this? This gigafactory, that gigafactory is going to be built in a few years, but we're now up to those discussion for their financial organization, their gigafactories, and our production on our side.
Because they got to model too, right? They got to model these things out. Yeah. You're 50 cycles right now. Is there a number that you and or the people on the other end of the phone are talking about what they want to see? Do they want to see 100, 150, 250, 500? What's your sense of that?
I think one of the next step is going to be more how we're going to start to be able to manufacture those types of material, and what's going to be our carbon footprint, our costing, and those issues. Because, you know, everybody understands that batteries is a consumable. All right, so eventually it will start losing efficiency, it'll start going down, it'll start moving forward. And there's multiple application that requires multiple amount of cycles. If we get to 100 cycles and we continue to be this good, it'll be very, very positive. If we go to 500 cycles and when we get those results, it'll be also very interesting. But you have to remember, this is our first iteration. We fully expect to be able to do much better batteries as we move forward. This was really iteration number 1. You know, go take a look at Silla's, and they're talking about their 38,000 iteration before they figured out how to get something done. Somehow, on our first one, we went for full commercial batteries, and we have something that is very respectable in the top tiers of the batteries made. It's a good demonstration of that we understand what is required to make silicone-based material for batteries.
When you talk about iterations only getting better, does that mean that less degradation, more cycle? Like, let's say this first iteration, it's probably not realistic. I'm not sure, but because I don't know enough. But this first iteration, is it possible you get to 100 cycles and you've got pretty much the same performance, and you can just go with this?
It should be around. My hunch is it's pretty close to where it is. You know, there's going to be a bit more degradation, but like if you look at the one we reproduced, they lost 5%. They lost 5% after 50 cycle, and they still became one of the best selling batteries, you know, out there of that side. So it's like it's the key message I want I want to pass to investors is that our silicon for battery work is starting to come into full fruition. It's demonstrating a potential. It is attracting interest. And we are in a unique position because of our North American situation with access to green power to be able to do things much better than people can do everywhere in the world, in a moment where the carbon footprint of the manufacturing is becoming important, at least in Europe right now. Which is
and thinking about the sales side, it almost sounds like what you said earlier about 10 minutes ago. This is not going to be it's not necessarily going to be an on-demand kind of sales model. You may be inking deals with Georgecom batteries a year and a half in advance, even though you haven't started producing yet and their gigafactory isn't ready. Commitments have to be made a lot, or ideally could be made a lot sooner than that, and where you have real great visibility as to sales, revenues, all that.
Yep, that's exactly the key point. And this is why, as I said, it's like I've gotten an email from somebody. Like, you send me 3 emails. You haven't replied. Sorry, I've been a bit busy. I'm going to reply to you tomorrow.
Well, you're playing hard to get.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not really playing hard to get. I'm just very busy lately.
I'm just making note of this timestamp right here. What's next? Last question on this part, because I want to jump over the Fume Silica. What's next? Obviously, you guys are testing these cycles really quickly. I guess next one is going to be results for 100 cycles.
Yeah, probably, yeah. I think we need to demonstrate 5, 25, 50, and then 100, and then probably like maybe 300, 500, also going to be coming pretty soon. So that continues to move in that direction for this iteration of batteries. We've already started to look at making different iteration of batteries and getting those samples ready, done, those batteries made and going forward. And eventually we'll try to go making the bigger size batteries, because what's going to happen is that, the 18650 is going to be replaced by bigger batteries, because you can't put more power in the batteries, okay, at the same size, because there are some physical limitations with the cathode, the anodes. So those issues. But what's going to happen is exactly the same thing happened in the solar industry. The beginning, you had solar cells that were this big, then they became this big, and that's how you kept increasing the efficiency.
Fume Silica, let's pop over there. The headline.
Yes.
All major equipment received for the HPQ Fume Silica Reactor pilot plant.
Yes.
On that on its own, just curious, that on its own is a really exciting thing, because I guess we all just assume it's all going to come in sooner or later. I don't know, were the supply chain issues, or is it more just letting the market know that, why'd you feel the need to issue that release now?
Well, first of all, we are being compared to the QRR issues. And the QRR had a lot of delays because there was a lot of supply issues, supply chain
during
issues.
COVID. During COVID.
It was, yes, but people seem to have forgotten this now. Somehow, COVID didn't exist. For some people, the fact that there was delay during COVID doesn't exist anymore. It's an irrelevant concept. It just demonstrates you guys were idiots not knowing how to manage it. It's just the way it is. So in this specific case, I wanted 2 things. I wanted to inform investors that this is moving forward. We don't have any issues. There's no COVID related other or inventory issues. So this project is really moving forward. Message A. Message B, which was more subliminal, well, not really subliminal, it was pretty blunt, okay, is that we are in discussion with multiple parties about this, okay? And once we start the machine and make it at commercial scale, the discussions are going to change. So, and I've been told that by investors.
Not because show me, everyone's like,
it's a show me moment. Okay, it's really a show me moment. Now, based on our track record for the QRR, okay, I understand that some people says, well, I got plenty of time to go, play around. I'll wait for it. I get that. So the idea was, no, you don't have plenty of time for multiple reasons. Okay. This is a project where the economic scope of the potential, this is why I feel you have to repeat it, is so massive. Okay. Now, once we start demonstrating we can make it there. Add to this what I just said about the carbon bomb in Europe. Okay. The traditional manufacturer make 20% operating margin. That's going to be completely squeezed by the carbon tax. So our technology is going to become much more important. I understand that a lot of people have a show me moment, okay? And it's been the same thing. You take a look at any disruptive technologies, okay? Until it's disruptive and it works, people will doubt it.
And I can't blame them, right? Can't blame.
So,
but when that show me moment comes, Bernard, does the leverage swing right over to you? Because you've still got major players in the fume silica world saying, okay, Bernard, sounds good, looks promising. You don't got it yet. Maybe they play hard to get. They play coy because obviously they may be looking to get leverage or looking to have leverage on you. But once you get to that show part, the show me part, and you've got it, how much of that bargaining power swings right over to you at that point?
I would dare say 80 to 90% swings completely over to me. And they are aware of that. I am privy to discussions because I'm involved in discussions with some players. And there are some member of the team, and because you understand, you don't talk with just one person. At HPQ, you talk with me. It's simple, but when you start talking big organization, you don't talk to one person. You talk to a group. So it's a group collective thinking. And there are some member of that group that are fully aware that once we start making it, the leverage they could bring to the story if they partner up with us earlier, okay, would be diminished by the financial advantage behind this project. Okay. Once we make, and you have to remember the numbers we are talking about in that press release, okay, are based on the material that we made at lab scales. I feel it's very, very important for me to remind investors because, sometimes people just look at the share price as it's not there. This is really go from a no to a FOMO moment, fear of missing out moment. It's going to be coming. Now, I don't know when. That frustrates me, okay? Because I'm the one that's having the discussion with all those parties. But the good thing is HPQ, by being at least a three initiative company.
Three-pronged.
Yeah, three-pronged, but I don't want to use that term. 3 initiative projects. We have multiple ones. Now, there seems to be 2 of them that are coalescent at the right time. So the message between this, and the message was also reflected by Pyro, which is not only our technology providers, but somehow they have a very big financial interest when this works. To get this work, they have a very big, because it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that with profit margin of between 60 to 70%, okay, which is what they have in high tech, financing construction plants to build that material is not going to be difficult, because often when you have a disruptive technology, the profit margin can be squeezed, so you can be squeezed. It's not like I'm starting another airline and Air Canada can just add capacity to destroy me. They can't do that. They can't add capacity. So right now, they're probably hoping that it's not going to work because it's going to just change their target. But once it starts to work, they're going to have to start thinking, oh, how does that come into play? And then you add the timing of the fact that the carbon bomb is coming in Europe, and Europe is a big market for fume silica.
That's why when I was reading this press release, it almost felt like it was more of a telegraph to the market than for shareholders, which is great. I mean, it's good for shareholders to know that all the equipment's in and commissions on schedule. That's great. But you listed all the milestones again, right? Having successfully achieved the following milestones. I'm not going to read them all off, but May 17th, then the NDAs, then November 8th, and so on and so forth. It seems like, and then you said, you've got a great quote, but you say at the end of it, with commissioning scheduled to commence in Q2, the time for third parties showing strong interest in our tech to stay on the sideline is getting shorter. Are you sending a message out to everyone?
I'm sending it. Well, actually, I'm sending that message to shareholders. Okay. In the sense that it is coming. I understand that it looks like it's been long, but it is coming. All right. And I'm also sending that message to the industry, at least to one of the players, which I'm having very formal discussion. But there's other things coming online that we're working on to be able to get. The financial models are so strong, okay, that once we start having the first pilot plant coming along, it'll be moving forward. I have merchant banks that are showing interest. I have investors. But those are not type of guys that are going to come in and buy shares in the market. They're going to come in and says, we're going to take in a significant chunk and we're going to make big money out of this. By default, when that happens, all the shareholders make money. It's just as simple as that, because they see our market cap as X and they see it can be 10 times X within a time frame of 3 to 5 years. That's a good investment for them. And that's how they think. Okay, they don't think like retail FOMO. I gotta buy it now because it's great. They're gonna think, okay, that's one of the reasons why, although it seems like I'm issuing a lot of press release that may seem like nothing, it's also demonstrating that we are reaching every one of our milestones that we've said we do, and we're moving forward to this, and that's very important for the market.
No, I think it's important to put this one out because you can just wait till Q2 to start talking about it, because we are almost at the end of Q1. The next couple of weeks, the questions will start yapping in. Where are we? We've forgotten about the fume silica. Is the pilot plant going to happen? So I think you putting this out, I think is great for everybody, and you telegraphing this message is even better. Again, I love that confidence. The time for third parties showing strong interest in our tech to stay on the sidelines is getting shorter. You're basically telling George Com and everybody else, hey, it feels like one of those reality shows. You're creating one of those situations. I don't watch it, but I know that my kids watch The Mask or something, or the sing, when someone's singing and these people who want you on their team, have to decide when they hit the button. If they wait till the end, everybody knows that HPQ Silicon is a fantastic singer. So they gotta hit that button somewhere before the end, when they really have a good idea that this is the partner they want to have. That's what it feels like, right, Bernard? It feels like which one of the third parties is going to hit that button.
Yeah. So, and the overall market for chemical projects have been a bit rough, but they're starting to stabilize. It's not all AI intelligence. We're talking about doing some real engineering material and real new product and real green engineering of processes. So I understand the skepticism of can we do it? Okay. But the time frame for this is getting closer. And one of the reasons why I really want to emphasize this is we've experienced this with the QRR where there was delayed even when we started it because there were pre-COVID and all those issues related. But we feel that this one, we have a much better grasp of when it's going to be coming online, much moving forward. It's not going to be a straight line, but it's moving in the right direction. And we just have to prove that we can make what we've done at the lab scaled up, and that we've done with the QRR. And there are some similarities between the two technologies. So that's why we're not really worried about it, but we're antsy to get there, but we can't go faster than it is, but it's getting there. And that's the key point.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, and I don't want, and I'm going to say this with the big caveats and warnings and disclaimers, but as it almost sounds like you're talking about Christmas. It's coming. You can't speed it up, but you're pretty confident. We never know. Sometimes we just get socks and a sweater. But you sounds like you have a pretty good idea. This is going to be when I say Christmas, I don't mean December 25th. I mean the Fume Silica Christmas. It's almost like it's coming, and now you just can't wait, but you have to wait.
Yeah, it's yes, but I want to be very, very sure we were talking Christmas metaphorically. I believe it
Yes,
will
I
be
know.
much quicker than it's gonna be it should be in Q3. It's gonna be a very exciting Q3 for all the
Last
things that we're
question.
working on.
Last question. Why do you always do this to me when I'm away? I left
Why
for
are you
Los
always
Angeles.
away?
I land here. I land here on Monday, and Tuesday you're like, "Hey, George, you do an interview to this today. Hey,
No,
George, you do an
I
interview."
gave you a 1 week break. What's your problem? I gave you a one
One
week. I didn't
day.
issue a press release last week,
Yeah, because
and
it was
this week
PDAC.
I
Because it was
decided to do two
PDAC, and
press
you knew
releases
better.
and one interview. Huh?
Because it was
Sorry?
PDAC, and you knew better.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I'm no longer a mining company.
Congratulations, buddy. Great news, and as always, fantastic communication with everybody. Love it. And all kidding aside, you got another one on Monday. We're here. We're doing it. And thanks to all the shareholders who have posted some great comments all over social media, not just on the Gorecom, but thanks to them as well, because we're reading them, and we even have a couple of chuckles with our critics. They keep us entertained. But for the other 99%, I love the level of knowledge that they have, the great
Mhm.
reasoning, this and not overly optimistic, not cheerleading, but at the same time having a good, pretty reasonable outlook for the future. So that's great to watch, and we're all behind you, my friend. So continued success, and until next time.
Thanks.
To anybody at home, you've been watching or listened by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Bernard Tourillon, CEO at HPQ Silicon, trades in Canada, HPQ, trades in the US, HPQFF. Do your due diligence, get to Agoracom, and then make sure you get over the company's website, which, by the way, Bernard, looks amazing. Really looks amazing the way you guys laid out the information. So get there, guys. And if for existing shareholders, if you haven't been there in a while, go check it out. They put a lot of great hard work into it, a lot of great information, and you're always learning something new. Until then, thanks for joining us. Bye from LA. See you next time.
Bye from Montreal.
Hey Small Cap fam, I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agoracom? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agoracom small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.